Hi again, and we're going to look at chapter 6 today, which is creating product solutions. This is really interesting for your project. You can look at certain strategies and certain solutions again for your project or your sales plan strategy. So you can start looking at that. That might be in the questions that I might ask you. So go ahead and do it in advance. All right, so I'm not going to go through all of these. You can take a look at them. We're going to explain the importance of developing solutions with added value. That is the main thing. Importance of becoming an expert regarding product knowledge. I think that goes without saying. And certainly discuss the importance of becoming an expert regarding this, company knowledge certainly. And also describe how expert knowledge of competition and industry trends improve personal selling. And we're going to look at major sources of product competition industry and explain how to add value with a feature benefit strategy. So here we go. So let's take a look at strategic consultative selling model. You can see it right over here. So developing a product strategy enables the salesperson to custom fit products or services to the customer's needs. So if you look at these strategic steps that you have here, you can check off what your product says or does, and you can have a good selling model or a good strategy, I should say, for your company. So developing a product solution that adds value, this is called a product strategy. So this is a well-conceived, I should hope it's well-conceived, but it certainly is a plan for sales that looks at acquiring extensive product knowledge. This is where you need to know a lot about your product. When you go into sales, you certainly can't walk into anything that you are, especially selling, without knowing what you're selling and what the product does and what the benefits are, or the needs or the benefits are for customers. So this is what sales is really all about too, is you need to know this. So you're learning to select and communicate appropriate product benefits that will appeal to the customer. This, if we take a further course in sales, I would explain to you how we present products and how we ask questions specifically to find out what customers are looking for. And after that, you always lean towards what the benefits are for the customer when you present the product all the time. In other words, just to give you an example, if you qualify the customer and the customer is looking for safety, and a lot of us are looking for that these days, you certainly cannot, when you question the customer and that they're looking for something that has to, or the buyer, that has something to do with safety, and you start presenting the product and you start coming out with benefits that have nothing to do with safety and more, let's say, got to do with esteem or love and belonging or something like that. So that will lead to a lot of questioning by the customer and a lot of dismay and confusion. So you always lean towards what the customer wants. So that the strategy always has to define what the customer's needs are. This is why you have a target market and you have an understanding of what the benefits are for your specific market. If you look at the definition of a solution, a selling solution, it's a mutual shared answer to a recognized customer problem. A mutual share, that means it's got to do with what your company sees it in what you have to do as a product. So mutually shared answer to a recognized customer problem, more encompassing than a specific product, and often provides measurable results. So if you have an understanding of what the customer's plan or the customer's needs are, you can have a clearer understanding of what the solution is between you and the customer. And a solution selling, or if we have to solution sell, a process by which a salesperson uncovers and clarifies a customer's problem. This is exactly what I was telling you about, is that you sell and talk and present products that lean always towards what the customer is giving you as information. So a lot of salespeople, unfortunately, don't like to do that because they think they know more and understand more than the customer does, and always lean towards what they think the product should be good for them. And this is where it causes a lot of confusion. What you have to do is a step back, listen to what the customer says, or how the customer answers your questions, and from there, the questions or the information you gather, you need to always head into that direction. Like I said before, in case, let's say, you qualify the customer and you find out that it is a need of safety, you certainly have to share safety needs that your product can give the customer and not anything else. It's that simple. And if you tailor, I apologize for that, tailor the product strategy. You have 3 of them as you see in front of them, and the differences are there. I'm not going to go through them. We've been through this before. If you look specifically at strategic alliance, this is a time-consuming process. It is rewarding and a large financial commitment on that part of the company. So you can see that they all have different tallies on them, and you can see that you can have different types of product strategies. So you need to pick one for your product. If you look nowadays at explosion of product options, there's good news and there's bad news, right? Almost all buyers have a choice, certainly, and the customer will always have an objection. And bad news, having too many choices often complicates the buying process. When I teach sales as sales in retail, when you qualify the customer, like I said before, and you find out the customer's need is, we'll stick to the same example as before, as safety. When you do present the product, you don't present 6, 7 different types of products. You present one. So this is what I'm really looking forward from you. You can have different options, certainly, but you need to have just one product in your sales strategy. This is very important. You don't want to confuse the customer at this stage, right? Creating solutions with product configuration, that's a challenge that faced the customers and the sales associates or salespeople or sales representative. In this era of information, there is just too much information to decide what the product is. So again, what does the product solve for that specific buyer or that specific customer? This is your goal all the time. And I used to do this all the time. You walk into customers, and I always thought that a customer or a sales associate or a sales representative had to do all the talking. This is absolutely wrong. You need to ask a question and then listen to what the customer is saying. Find out what their communication style is and listen to what they say and what their problem is. And a lot of sales reps don't do this because they're trying to sell or upsell or sell specific products that they have in inventory, and they're not even listening to what the customer is saying. You need to listen. This is the only way you're going to have loyal customers in the future. So product configuration, the solution of complex buying needs. When the sales representative brings together many different parts of the company's product mix and uses specialized software to develop a customer-fitted solution. Certainly today, everything is used with software. And in my case, we certainly would look at certain prototypes where you would use certain softwares to come up with a certain solution for the customer. Once you all do it, you have to do a quote or a written proposal. Quote, written proposal, same thing. A specific plan of action based on the facts, assumptions, and supporting documentation about buying a solution that are included in the sales presentation. So here, whatever you have come up with a solution, the customer is going to ask you to send them a quote. And when you send them the quote, certainly you have to have the price and you have to have a lot of information. What's the objective, strategy, a schedule? In other words, when can you deliver? When can you show them a prototype? And all the answers have to follow, right? And as it says there, should address the invisible customer. In other words, you need to be very transparent with the customer, and you should have a good understanding of what what there is in total for the customer. You should not hide anything, and you should be wide open with them. This is not something that we're going to do, certainly not, but when you do write effective sales letters, this is very critical. I think I explained it to you once where a long time ago we used to have secretaries, and I made a quote, a specific quote for a customer, and I misspelled, or I didn't misspell, I actually gave the business card to my secretary at that time, and I did the mistake of not checking her spelling, and she made a mistake on the customer's customer name, or company name, I should say. And what happened was, of course, the customer's first thing he looks, he sees down, and he sees that his company name is misspelled, and he puts two and two together, and he says, well, if you can't even check and see if my spelling of my company name is right, how are you going to make sure that you're going to get me what I want? And I could believe you. So that tells me you're not listening, and you're not 100% focused on what we're looking for. So this is a big issue. A small thing like misspelling a name or a company name, and a very small one. It could be a hyphen or a capitalization of a letter. I know a lot of students do this mistake. They don't capitalize, and for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, but this is something that most students need to check before, and I would appreciate that when you do your sales plan, verify your capitalization, and I will mark it accordingly. Okay? Thank you. Certainly when you're in sales, you've got to become a product expert. And this goes without saying. So most common product information you need to know. Price and delivery is easy, but what the product does for a specific need, do you know what that is? Do you have all the specifications, sizes, color, all of this, maintenance, after sales service, all of this needs to be addressed before and for you to have. So product development, testing, modifying, and retesting an idea for a product several times before offering it to a customer. Again, you need to have, this is not something that the salesperson does, certainly, probably more research and development. But the sales associate or sales representative needs to have a good understanding of what that is when it comes to the product itself. But what the salesperson usually does, or sales representative, is feedback. So whatever feedback the customer gets or the sales representative gets from the customer, he brings that back, and with that they can develop and they can make the product better than what it is. So that's quality control, evaluation or testing of products against established standards, right? So sales appeal is used to convince a prospect of a product's quality. There are certain organizations that assure this, that you have to follow. So this is very important also when you're developing products. So on and on we go about solutions, and we look at performance data and specifications. So the sales representative must be prepared to address this in sales proposals and presentations. So when you're in sales, it's not just trying to convince or persuade. There is a lot more going on behind the scenes, and you need to be very technical and understand what the product does as much as possible. In other words, a sales representative has to have pretty much all, or sales representative must have the capability of answering pretty much every single question the buyer will ask you, or if it's in production, what questions they will ask you. If you don't, certainly you will get back to them. One or two questions that you don't know the answer, that's not a bad thing. But if you're standing there in a sales or in a meeting and you don't know 5 or 6 questions, or the answers of 5 to 6 questions, your capabilities certainly will be looked upon as being very weak when it comes to sales. All right, so continue. Maintenance and service contracts. Salespeople who can quickly or accurately provide information will have an edge. This is like I just finished saying. As much as possible, you need to be aware of all that the product can do when it comes to anything, especially stuff like service contracts. Pricing, same thing, right? You need to quantify the solution, the process of determining if a sales process adds value. So you'll have a cost benefit analysis, or you'll have a return on investment, ROI, right? So if the customer does says, well, this price is too high, competition has a better price, how do you answer that, right? So this is where cost benefit analysis comes into play, and you have to be ready for that question, or the answer to that question, because they're going to ask it. Now let's continue. So become a company expert. Organizational culture, a collection of beliefs and work patterns held in common by people employed by a specific firm. This is where you have to be loyal to whomever is paying your salary. That's exactly what that means. So you need to support the culture. You need to support everything, all the events that are going on. You cannot be an outsider in your own company where you get paid, or you cannot say bad things or start bad rumors about anybody who you're working for. You need to support that, and you have to understand that losing your job because of saying some things or not doing some things in a organization will not give you the opportunities as you think you will when it comes to promotions. So you will be passed on, and you will not be looked upon as what we call a collaborator, or the old terminology of being a team player. And when it comes to being an expert in sales, you certainly, one of the first things I never forget when I started in sales, the conversations between sales reps always revolves around competition. Who's a competitor? Who's a salesperson or the sales representative that is in your territory and is going and is visiting the same customers as you are? So you really need to know who they are, and you can also have to know, if anybody you have to know communication styles of, is them, because you could certainly understand better what their strategy is when it comes to sales if you know what their communication style. So competition is good, is very good for you. It makes you better, no doubt about it, but you need to know and you need to understand what they are. So you never criticize sales, or you never criticize competition, but if you do criticize, you have to do it in a very good, honest, it has to be a fact. If you do mention anything about a competition to a buyer, it has to be 100% true. It can't be, oh, I heard this about that company. Is that true? That is hearsay. And as a sales associate or a sales representative, you should never ever bring up to customers, to buyers. And we continue. The sources of product, company, and industry information. You need to know all this. You need to be able to have to do plant tours. You will need to always improve yourself when it comes to sales. It's not necessarily like a doctor, but the doctor always looks upon what's happening, what is on the cutting edge of medicine. Well, sales is the same thing, right? When I remember when CRMs came out and Salesforce came out, and people shunned it, but I loved it. Having pipelines of finding out where customers are certainly made my job a lot easier. So you need to always look at what's happening around you, and always be able to adapt, never to stick to old mindsets or a fixed mindset. You need to have a very, very open and growth mindset, and always be ready to gather information to get better. Because no matter how much you sell, or if you were the sales representative of the year for 4 years in a row, that is great, certainly. But what are you going to do now for the 5th year? That's what they're worried about. That's what they're concerned about. That's what your manager is concerned about. Yes, great, thank you for last year, but that's last year. So now what are you going to do for me next year? And if you don't, certainly, then your awards that you've had in the past all of a sudden don't look as shiny as they used to. Okay? And that's very, very true. A word of caution, communication problems can arise if the sales representative does not accurately gauge the prospect's level of understanding. Like I said before, this is why you need to know what the customers, buyers' communication style is to understand them more and to be able to decipher what exactly are their needs, right? So this is where you know the feature benefit strategy. But if you don't figure this out at first, it's very difficult to have the customer on your side and understand what they're buying, right? So this is a word of caution. So successful sales presentations translate product features into benefits that meet a specific need expressed by the customer. This is why specifically, again, specific, there's that word, that I make you do the elevator pitches. So this weekend you're not going to do it, but you will do one soon, probably next weekend. You're going to do an elevator pitch on your own strategy. So you will have to do that coming up very soon. And why we do that is because you need to be able to translate what the features are of your product and what the customer's need is met, I should say, by what you say. So this is why it's very important to be able to talk in front of people in sales and to come up with solutions. Distinguish between features and benefits. Features are facts and benefits are what it answers to the customer, certainly. So features, data, facts, or you can say facts instead of features. I always say facts. First thing you do is when you present a product is you bring up the facts. Facts don't change. Facts are true. And this starts the presentation on the right path, because what happens is you're telling them stuff that they would need to know about the product. So those are facts. And then you have the benefits. Now this is how, like I told you before, what's in it for the customer. If we talk about safety, again, I come up with that again, then you need to talk benefits that have to do with safety. Yes, customer wants to know how many colors it comes in or whatever. That has nothing to do with safety. But when you align presentation, you always align facts and benefit one after the other. Right? So feature dumping is really got to do with facts, and benefits really has to do how you align yourself in telling the customer what they want to hear after they've answered all your questions, and you figured out that their need in this case would be safety. Okay, we're almost done. So general benefit shows how a feature can be helpful to a buyer. Specific benefit when it fulfills a specific need expressed by the buyer. So we don't really look at general benefits when it comes to talking to customers or to buyers. You need to be very specific. Right? This is where you have to understand that if you're talking a lot of money in the contracts, you've got to be specific. If it's a very small contract, very small purchase, you could be a little bit more general. But the more specific you are, big or small, in my point of view, the more effective you will become as a sales associate or a sales representative and reach a higher quota of selling. So distinguish between features and benefits continues. The advantages of the product. Again, here you don't mention the competition. Advantages for what the customer wants, not comparison to something else. And when you're talking, you need to bridge statement and bridge state. And bridge state is really a transitional phrase that connects one or more product features with potential customer benefits. So I am not actually going to tell you any of them because there is tons of them out there. And I think I just used a few with you already in this class. And what I'd like you to do, or you actually use with me in your initial elevator pitch, believe it or not, you did that already. I need you to look this up a little bit more, find out more details. I left you a question in your question exercise to find out a little bit more about bridging statements. So it's very simple. It's not as difficult as it looks. You've got to bridge what connects the product features to the customer benefits. This is called a bridge statement. And almost done. So identify features and benefits. Here's a 3-step approach that you can do. Right? We talked about this before. Identify all important features. Right beside each feature, the most important benefit for the customer. So you take notes all the time when you actually with customers and figuring out what their needs are. Avoid information overload. This is when all you talk about is facts, 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 what the product does, how much money it could save, on and on it goes. So you have to be very careful how you state things when it comes to that. So data dump, that word is not used coincidentally. It's used on purpose, right? Because it's exactly that. It's a dump. So salespeople who love their products, vast product knowledge overload. Customers with data they neither need nor want. So like I said before, if the product comes in 20 shades and the customer doesn't even care about that, or they're looking for safety requirements, don't start telling them that it comes in 27 different sizes and different colors and all of that, right? This is not what you want to do. And when I train sales associates in retail sales, this is the first mistake they do over and over again. And then they get tired of me because I stop them every time and I tell them, no, this is not what you should do. You're not going to dump information on the customer. You need to be very specific and lead into what the customer needs. Okay? That word need is very important. Benefits also. Right? So that's it. So I'll stop right there. And if you have any questions, let me know. If not, you can answer the questions on the exercise. Ciao for now.